Great. So, welcome. I'll just do an intro for myself to start off with, and then I will go around the virtualized table just to get some ideas of who you are and what your business does and stuff like that. So, I'm Carl. I've been a tutor at Cambridge Marketing College now for 12 years. On the digital side, I have the bold title of Fellow of Cambridge Marketing College, which means I can walk across a small patch of grass, I think, somewhere in over now, which that's pretty much the only privilege I have for that. And I teach the digital marketing side of things. I've been working in digital, in the internet business for Crikey, it's coming up for 32, 33 years I've been working in the internet industry, which is a lot more time than any of you have been born, I think. It shows you really how long ago I started doing this thing. And so I've done a huge amount of things in the internet industry, which we will talk about at some time during the next 8 weeks or so. I started off as an engineer, actually building this thing we call the internet, and then moving into a variety of roles, culminating in marketing. And I am now currently a product marketing manager for a company I can guarantee none of you have ever heard of called Géant, which provides networking services and so forth for universities around Europe. So very, very technical. So I'm heavily biased towards the internet technologies and digital marketing and all those things in between. As you can tell, I'm a little bit older than all of you, and I've been around for enough time to have plenty of war stories about all kinds of different types of marketing, all kinds of different technologies, and so on. And the aim of this set of evening classes isn't really for me to just simply read through the course book, because frankly, you can all read. The point of these sessions is for me to really kind of color in and talk around the various subjects and technologies and techniques and concepts. So you kind of get to see how they fit together as a big jigsaw puzzle of different kinds of marketing and digital marketing in particular. So we won't necessarily be following a particular thread of chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on. We may bounce around a little bit. These are here to kind of supplement and support the work, the coursework, all the modules, all the texts, all of the videos, and so on and so forth. So they're kind of to be used as well as part of, rather than instead of, any of that stuff. So that's the kind of way that I work. I've got a pretty good pass rate. I think it's something like 95% or so pass rate for these courses. So hopefully that'll continue as well, which hopefully good news for you guys. So that's basically me. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about me as we go on and so forth. Yeah, so we'll go around the room. So Catherine, you were first. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so sorry to Gabby, you've heard this 2 times before. So I work in book publishing. We specialise in publishing academic research in the agricultural and environmental sciences. I head up the marketing department. I've recently received a promotion, so I've taken on some more responsibilities. And yeah, so I deal with the day-to-day marketing, also dabble in sales because we're a very small company. So I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, essentially.
So when you say academic publishing, this is what, publishing research or?
Yeah, so we publish reviews of primary research. So it saves researchers having to kind of browse through thousands of research articles. It sounds really boring, but I can assure you it's not.
No, is that mainly physical or is it now online mainly?
So we've always been print and digital. But we've recently, we're in the beginning stages of doing an AI platform. We're working with the developing team who are developing an AI platform that can interrogate our content and kind of generate business reports for a more kind of corporate audience. So it's not just researchers.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'll pick your brains on AI. I'm chairing an academic session on AI in 4 weeks' time.
Please don't pick it too hard. I'm so I'm so new to it. I pretend I know what I'm talking about. Maybe that's why I work in marketing, but yeah, not so clued up as I might seem. So
don't we all? Don't we all? We all kind of do that. So yeah, cool. So Gabby.
Hello. So I work at Cambridge Regional College, which is a further education college in Cambridge. My job role is web and digital marketing exec. So I look after the website and like the runnings of it. And I also look after the adult and higher education side of marketing and promotion. I've been doing it for like nearly 2 years, and I've also done the same modules as Catherine in this course. I think we're both working towards a level 4. So yeah, we've worked together.
Cool. So when you're talking web digital marketing, so your is your target market
So it's
going into
adults.
going into sixth form or young adults?
Yeah, so we do a lot of adult courses. So
Uh-huh.
I target like parents that want to get their GCSEs,
Mhm.
people that want a different route to going to get a degree. So we have like level 4s and level 5 courses, which
Mhm.
then they can go on to do a degree. And I work with the team that look after the like school leavers, so the people that choose to do more of like a trade course rather than going to sixth form.
Cool. I know a couple of people who went to CRC for a variety of reasons and so forth. What about this new apprenticeship stuff? Do you do anything in that area?
Yeah, we work with apprenticeships. So there's a new T-level scheme. So it's like the mixture of an apprenticeship and a full-time course, but the student doesn't get paid for it. And yeah, there's a massive push from the government to increase apprenticeship numbers to avoid going to university and taking out loans.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the great things about it is that the companies themselves pay in as a levy and then they get the money out. So it's almost free training.
Yeah, so we actually have an apprentice on our team doing a level 3 in digital marketing. So it's nice
Cool.
to be able to teach her some bits as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Brilliant. So Liv.
Oh, hi. Marketing is all relatively new to me. I graduated nearly 2 and a bit years ago, and I'd never done anything marketingy based. I did a visuals like photography degree at Cambridge School of Art, and that was throughout COVID. So coming out the other side, having had no chance really to gain any experience, I thought I enjoy visuals, I enjoy graphics, and I like social media. So I chose to look for marketing roles and ended up as a marketing intern at SMT, which is Volvo construction equipment, so diggers and dump trucks, big yellow things. Not the sector that I wanted, ideally, having come from a photography degree. But I did an internship with them throughout 2023, and I'm now in a permanent position on the team, which is really nice. But it's been a learning curve because I'd only ever marketed myself as a freelancer prior to that. So yeah.
So you've moved very much into business to business marketing.
Yes, we are fully business to business marketing mainly. We have a very small business to customer channel, which is mostly owner operators, but generally we work with massive international companies, so like HS2 or Suez, Veolia, big global brands, because we're part of an international global group, SMT.
Oh, cool. So people like Tarmac and all those kind of people who are the
Yes,
ones
Tarmac's a
doing.
massive customer.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Fantastic. And finally, Chelsea.
Hello. So I work as a sales and events manager for a family brewer called Wells & Co. They're based in Bedford. My job title doesn't really reflect the sort of work that I'm doing because it crosses over quite nicely into marketing. But a bit like Liv, it's kind of new to me other than working alongside marketeers. So we've sort of got a few different arms to the business. So we've got like our managed pubs, lease and tenanted pubs, and then we've also got the brewing side. So we brew our own beer and we've created a brand out of that called Brew Point, and we've got a tap room located in Bedford. We also sell our beers, cans, merch through our online shop, and that sort of filters into our pubs as well.
So you actually are a pub owner. You own a
Yes,
chain.
family brewer.
Ah, fantastic, fantastic. So good stuff. So are there any pubs in Cambridge which are yours?
Yeah, so we've got the Salisbury Arms, the Carpenter Arms, which are both managed, and then we've got quite a few which are leased and tenanted. It's got like the Burley Arms, which is leased and tenanted, and then a few others. So my role predominantly looks after the managed side, which is UK and France. And then, but the way our sort of, because we are a small family brewer, the way our marketing team is sort of switching is more into working across the business, so more in like specialist areas. So some of my role crosses into like campaign marketing and stuff.
Okay, so you fall in between the kind of
Yeah,
the big conglomerates and
between.
the microbreweries.
Yeah, in between.
Okay, cool. So I'm asking lots of questions now because what I'm trying to do is to get some kind of ideas about your businesses and the kind of things that you guys are going to be doing, so that when we go through other sections, I can kind of tailor it and focus it on your kind of stuff. And Salisbury Arms is actually quite close to our offices, so I've been there a few times. Yeah, cool, fantastic. Thank you very much. I hopefully this will be fairly interactive. I don't want to just be talking all of the time, though I do accept that I do talk a lot. So if you want to speak, just yell. If you want to ask a question, just yell. I sometimes go off on streams of consciousness and never kind of come back again. So pull me up at your leisure, basically. So yeah, cool. So it's really interesting now. I've been teaching, like I say, digital marketing now for 12 years. And when I started, it was very much a kind of different field. It was a kind of whole different stuff. You know, you had a digital marketing team within an organization. So you had digital marketing specialists and so on and so forth. And it was a new bunch of things that people were doing. Now, to an extent, it is marketing. Virtually everything that we do has a very substantial digital element in terms of the marketing that we do. No one really contemplates anything which is just purely non-digital, purely offline activity. And we all see hear the radio adverts, and people just say, to find out more, search the AA and stuff like this, because what they're doing is they're putting an online call to action into their offline marketing activities. And we have situations where virtually everything nowadays has a QR code on it, where we are expected to scan the QR code to find out more, and that then takes us via our mobile phone to a web page or to anything else, and so forth, so on and so forth. So it kind of still surprises me that the CIM and well, it's the CIM which controls the modules and the courses and everything else, still have this digital, non-digital kind of look and feel to what they're doing, because I don't think it is. And I think probably everyone here kind of recommends. I mean, Catherine, you're obviously doing your ebooks and physical books, and the marketing of those is always is kind of like never been offline, purely offline. I mean, okay, there are book festivals and there are conferences. Do you ever go to Frankfurt? Is Frankfurt still a big thing?
Yeah, so Frankfurt's still a massive thing. Yeah, so the area that we work in, the books we sell don't typically have kind of rights deals because obviously they're academic texts. But if you're in kind of trade fiction, Frankfurt is the event to go to. So my boss used to go to Frankfurt, and then COVID hit. And I don't think he's been. We sent our sales guy, but not the kind of the main boss. But London's big for us. But we actually got an email recently from the CIM to say that as of September, I think the marketing is being blended into professional marketing and digital. So I think that reflects that kind of switch that you were saying there.
Yeah, it's only taken them 12 years, so you know. But if anyone's ever been down to the CIM's offices, then they are kind of like Mad Men on steroids. They literally have a bar in their office, and it's, you know, it's the way they are. But anyway, but they're cool. So, you know, digital is essentially a bunch of new channels that we use to market. And this is, I think, you know, reflecting on the way that CIM is working, that we're now looking at this not as a special technique, but it's just basically a bunch of channels. And these channels are very, very different in many ways. We'll talk about how they are very different, but in some ways they are kind of very similar to the way that we've always marketed before. You know, it's still always about finding the right message and talking to the right people with that right message. You know, those kind of core things apply. No amount of digital trickery will change that aspect of it. There's no magic bullet which suddenly makes digital marketing completely and utterly unique. It just doesn't exist. But there are things which we'll talk about over the next 8 weeks which do make it particularly special in certain categories. One of the things that digital has done is it has dramatically disrupted the industry of marketing, and all industries as well. And that's one of the really kind of very interesting things about this, because when I'm talking about marketing, I'm not talking about necessarily just purely how to set up AdWords, how to do pay-per-click, how to, you know, do SEO and stuff like this. What a lot of it is about is understanding how the whole business strategy of an organization needs to adjust to digital. And as marketers, this is a great opportunity for you guys to be the people who are leading that shift. And this applies across kind of like everything that we do. And obviously, you know, Chelsea with the family brewery, you've got the big guys, you've got the big brewers with the huge brands of Budweiser and Heineken and all those kind of things, and the not so big but still quite big guys like Adnams, who are a localish brewer and that kind of stuff. And of course, they've got huge amount of visibility. They've got a huge, you know, they've got shelves of stuff in supermarkets. They've got all of the stuff going on and everything else. And they've got a huge amount of brand recognition and so forth. And before a lot of digital marketing techniques came along, to be able to get a voice of a small family brewery to have the same kind of reception and the same kind of penetration was incredibly difficult, because, you know, you couldn't afford TV adverts, you can't afford to sponsor Liverpool, you couldn't afford to put your things around Premiership football grounds and stuff like that. It's just simply not practical to do that. But there are techniques and tools that now can be used, which can actually provide a lot of bang for that buck, and can be actually used by smaller organizations in order to start to tilt that playing field a little bit closer. And that's really a very exciting way. Obviously, everyone here has heard of BrewDog, yeah? Yeah, Chelsea's good in because yeah, Brewdog are yeah. Though interesting, Brewdog are kind of changing now. They've got changed the CEO. They've recently changed the CEO and their strategy is going a
Yeah, I
little
saw
bit. Sorry.
I saw that. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting that there's kind of seems to be a bit of a shift away from that whole kind of anarchy kind of, oh, we're different and everything else. And now it's kind of, yeah, we're the same as everybody else, really. And stuff like this. But, it's interesting. There's Brewdog bar stroke club in Cambridge, which always seems to be quite busy. So yeah, it's clearly they've got the right kind of image. And a lot of that was done digitally. A lot of that was done through word of mouth, was done via viral marketing, was done by a whole bunch of stuff which didn't cost a vast amount of money in those early days. So it is possible to kind of disrupt those marketplaces quite massively. And all of us have kind of those situations, and we'll talk today particularly about all of those kind of things which are going on in there, which change the way we look at not just marketing, but actually the way that businesses are marketed, are presented, and how they communicate and who they communicate to, because this is really fundamental to what marketing is. It's frankly, if you wanted a course on how to use Google AdWords or how to use Google Analytics, then Google will give you a free course on doing that. I mean, that's something you probably should do, but it's not something that is worth us talking about here, because we can talk about it here as a much more strategic level. And this is a key thing that will hopefully boost your careers in the future. In that understanding how marketing, and particularly digital marketing, can guide and shift the way the business is working, will give you a very good strategic input into what a business is doing, be that your family's business or be that other businesses as well. And there have been so many examples of how digital and digital marketing in particular have managed to disrupt the world. And here are just 5 simple examples. I mean, Airbnb essentially is the biggest hotel chain which doesn't own a single hotel room in that sense. Compare the Market actually does have an insurance arm, but is a huge organization doing a lot of work in the industry. And it completely and utterly changed the way that the insurance business worked. When I was younger, a lot younger, my sister worked for an insurance broker in Ipswich. And this insurance broker was basically 4 very, very wide guys in very, very wide suits, sitting around in a room, in upstairs room in Ipswich. And they were an insurance broker, and you used to ring them up or even physically go and see them and say, help, I'm a 17-year-old with 3 points on my license. Can you find me some cheap insurance? And they would call around and do their little magic-y thing. And then eventually you'd get some kind of deal. And in actual fact, they were so dodgy that quite a lot of the insurance that they wrote was not actually real insurance. They would write cover notes for insurance that didn't exist. So yeah, very, very naughty boys. But that's what you did. You had to ring up an insurance broker, and an insurance broker would then take your details, and then they'd do all the ringing around and finding all the various information, and then come back to you and everything. It would take days, if not weeks, to get an insurance system. And you'd have these paper cover notes and stuff like this. This really shows you how old it is. Whereas these days, of course, we don't have insurance certificates and stuff like this. And you can go to Compare the Market, and it'll give you a huge list of different insurance companies that they will offer you and stuff like that. Any ideas how much money people like Compare the Market and stuff make per insurance policy? Anyone got any guesses? Throw a
Is it
number
like
at me.
pennies?
Oh,
No.
40-odd%.
Jeez.
So if you're paying 300 quid, they are getting 120 quid. That's how they can afford those bloody meerkats, because they're getting 120 quid for every insurance policy which goes out through them. And of course, their algorithms will switch around and not necessarily always give you the best deals. They'll give you pretty good deals, making sure that they're still making their percentages. So there's all sorts of very, very interesting things going on in that area. So they're making a vast, vast, vast amount of money out of you for not doing much, but for being a middleman. They're being an intermediary, a digital intermediary. And it's the same with Airbnb. They are being a digital intermediary, as are Uber. I mean, obviously, Uber are actually now trying to run automated taxis and everything else, but they are essentially an intermediary. So rather than finding the phone number of your local cab firm, like who the hell does that anymore? You simply go to Uber, and it's the same guys. It's just that they have the Uber app and they know what they're doing. The great advantage that Uber has is this global recognition, because you can go to where I was in Slovenia a couple of weeks ago. I was at the airport and I wanted a cab to my hotel. What I do, I went on Uber because I know them. I can rely on. I know that I'm not going to get massively ripped off. I know that they tell me how much it's going to cost, and I pay them. I'm not going to be sent around the whole of Ljubljana in an hour-long detour in order for the thing to rack up to 80 quid or whatever. That's happened to me in Rome before now, believe me. So that's the kind of thing. And you yeah, it's safe. You know, it's a safe thing to do. 888 poker and all of the other online gambling. I mean, how many, literally no judgment here, how many people here have gambled, put a bet on anything?
Yep.
One or two. Yeah. Cool. It's really, really interesting and fascinating, because pre-digital gambling, you had to go to a betting shop, or you had to go to a bookie, you had to go to a bookie, or you had to go to a race course. Going into a bookies, I can't imagine that any of you would ever want to go within 1,000,000 miles of a high street bookie. You seriously would never.
I've been in one and they're horrible.
Exactly. They are the worst. I would never go in one, because you just, you just not, no, just God, no. But online gambling has opened that market out. It's allowed people who would never go into a bookies to gamble. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's a philosophical discussion for some other time. But it's opened that market up. And you can see this with a lot of the kind of slot machine kind of games and stuff like this, where they're essentially games of chance. But because it's something you can do on your phone, and then you can just, idle away some time when something else is happening, you can have a bit of a flutter. And the language that they use is very, very kind of interesting, which is going on. And the TV adverts for this stuff are just absolutely frightening. I had a previous student a couple of years ago, and their business was inserting the live odds into those TV ads, which happen in halftime. So, they turn up and say, Chelsea to score next 3-1 and all this kind of stuff. They'd actually be literally digitally inserting those odds and that audio into the advert seconds before it was being broadcast. The technology is just extraordinary involved in that. And I have a very quite a large confession to make. About 25% of all the world's online gambling happens in one country. Can anyone guess what country that might be?
America?
Is it like Dubai or somewhere?
No,
Ireland?
no, Gibraltar. Gibraltar. 35,000 people, 25% of the world's gambling sites are hosted in Gibraltar. And I built the data center that they all run out of. So, yeah, 25% of the world's gambling habit is my fault. Yeah, a bit of a confession to make there. But it has massively disrupted the whole industry. Essentially, it's opened the industry up to the other 50% of the population who would never go into a bookies. You know, we're all adult. We know what I mean. I mean, that's the situation. And it has been incredibly dangerous because you can do it privately. You can do it on your phone. It was even a plot line in A Midsummer Murder. You remember that, anybody? Yeah. This is the thing. Digital gambling was a plot line. And once you become a plot line in A Midsummer Murder, then you start worrying a bit. At least it wasn't cheese. And Deliveroo and Uber Eats and Just Eat and everything else. Those businesses have not yet made a profit. None of those businesses make a profit. They lose money every time they deliver something to you. They are really, really not profitable businesses. But the unique thing that all of these businesses have, apart from the fact that they all rely upon digital communications and digital marketing to a degree, is that they have identified a problem and solve that problem. Businesses, almost without exception, are in the problem-solving marketplace. They identify a group of customers that have a problem, and they offer a solution to that problem in exchange for money. Catherine's business offers a aggregation, reporting, summarization of highly technical stuff distributed along lots of different articles into easily digestible pieces, because it's easier to do that than it is to actually try and find all the original sources themselves. That's the problem that they are solving. Chelsea's business is taking away the problem of, I want to go somewhere different. I want to try some new drinks. I want to have a great night in the Salisbury Arms. All of us have businesses which are doing that. If you cannot easily state what your business's problem that it's solving is, then your business has got a problem. You need to be able to definitively clarify what the problem is. And all of these businesses have I mean, Amazon's business is not selling books. Amazon's business is not doing selling any of the things it is. Amazon's business is getting stuff to you quickly. And I don't care what that stuff is. That can be a book, that can be a power drill, it can be a book for your Kindle, it can be a video on DVD. They don't care what it is. Their business is getting stuff to you. And understanding your business's solution is crucial to anything you do, because once you've discovered what the solution is, then you can identify who it is addressing, whose problem it is taking away. Once you've identified who you are then marketing to, you can identify their pain points, their pleasure points, why it is they are looking for something, how they are looking for something, what they are doing, and so on and so on and so on. You basically go through the chain. So identifying that problem statement is crucial. Little side note, interesting thing about Amazon warehouses. Obviously, Amazon warehouses, there's two actually. I've got two little interesting things about Amazon warehouses. Amazon's warehousing system is bizarre. You might imagine that it is organized to the nth degree. Absolutely, there is a place for everything in that warehouse. Yeah, because there has to be, because otherwise, how the hell are they going to find anything? It's not. It literally is random. A pallet load of Lego Hogwarts castles turns up, that's put wherever there is a pallet-sized space in their warehouse. It's recorded where it is, obviously, but it's put wherever. The previous pallet load of Hogwarts Lego castles could be literally in a different warehouse. It could be in a different county. It could be anywhere. They don't care. They don't go, oh, I've got this pallet. Where do I store Lego? Oh, Lego is in R17. It's not how they do it. They just put it wherever it fits. And the computer system then just basically tells the pickers, whether humans or robots, go to wherever and pick it out, put it in. They don't care where they are at all. They just stuff it wherever they can. So that's a kind of interesting thing. If anyone complains, say your house is disorganized, I'm doing an Amazon with my house. It's fine. Second interesting thing, which is actually a little bit more marketing related. We all use Amazon. Everybody uses Amazon. It's just a fact of life these days, particularly since COVID. Everyone's using Amazon. When you're searching for a generic thing, you see all of these brands with weird and wonderful brand names. You know, a whole bunch of random letters, which means nothing. You've never seen them in a shop ever, anywhere. Yeah, we've all noticed those. Anyone know why they do that? No?
Isn't it Amazon's own brand, but they're just disguising it as no?
No, completely the opposite. Amazon Basics is Amazon's brand. That's Amazon stuff. These random collections of letters are people who are fulfilled by Amazon. Okay, so they are basically renting a space in Amazon's warehouse and their stuff is chucked in there. And then you buy it and Amazon guys pick it up and put it in a bag and ship it out to you. They were having a long time ago issues that people were basically filling their warehouses with crap, sometimes dangerous crap, flammable children's nightwear, USB power packs which would ignite the merest hint of electricity going anywhere near them, all this kind of stuff. And they had huge problems because obviously they're being fulfilled by Amazon, so therefore Amazon had some form of liability to this. So what they did was, rather than actually check this stuff, they basically just gave the people who were selling the stuff a hoop to jump through, to say you must have a registered trademark for your products in order to be able to sell as fulfilled by Amazon, thinking that this would get rid of all of these fly-by-nights. Because, you know, you've got to have a registered trademark, you've got to have trademark lawyers, you've got to have all this stuff, you've got to have an infrastructure. You're not going to have all that stuff and infrastructure to sell dangerous crap, which self-ignites. Forgetting, of course, that in actual fact, a registered trademark now costs you less than €1,000 and you can do it online in about 5 minutes flat. So these guys create a trademark of a random collection of letters, still keep on selling this crap. They then get reported and taken down, and the company which is making the stuff just basically registers another trademark and starts all over again. So really interesting and slightly worrying way of the way that they work these days. And this is really crucial because it has transformed the way that we communicate. And one of the transformative ways that it has really changed the world is this concept of marketing to an audience of one. You can highly personalize and highly target marketing. We've all seen on Facebook things coming across which are t-shirts, you know, my name's Maya, that means whatever. Okay, or you've seen this stuff like, I'm an engineer, don't ask me how, yeah, all this kind of stuff, because they can actually tightly market that stuff and customize the adverts literally on the fly for different groups of people. And the situation where you go to a website and from then on you get loads and loads of adverts for similar competing companies and stuff like this. as an example, my daughter was thinking about becoming a student tutor, helping kids get into university and stuff like this. And I foolishly clicked on a link that I found about this, and now every other ad on my Facebook, every other ad on my Instagram, every other ad virtually anywhere is for these tutoring companies. Because it has changed the way we do things. It's not a case of putting up an advert in the middle of a TV program and repeating an advert hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times and hoping that somebody kind of absorbs the information. We all know why soap operas are called soap operas, yeah? Gabby does. Catherine doesn't. Liv? Chelsea? They're called soap operas because when they were launched in America, they were sponsored by washing powder manufacturers, soap manufacturers, and they had adverts for soap products in them because they were seen as being targeted at homemaker women, and they were kind of during the day or in the early evening, and they were considered to be the kind of stuff that the little lady at home would watch. And so they were sponsored by soap companies and had adverts for soap companies in them. That's why they're called soap operas. We don't kind of do that anymore because the advertising that we see is really, really different and how we do things, and the distribution of vast numbers of channels means that the marketplace is really, really spread out. And you can see this a lot of the time in that in TV adverts, you'll see that football advertising, there will be quite a large amount of erectile dysfunction adverts in the middle of football programs and stuff like this. And it's just because they go, that's the audience who's watching that, and we can focus now because okay, there's only 500,000 of them rather than 10 million, but we know pretty closely what those 500,000 people are like, so they can actually target it. Online, obviously, we can focus even tighter down to very, very small audiences. And it is diffused. It's everywhere. It's on sidebars. It's in the middle of pages. It's before, during YouTube videos, and all of these kinds of things. Because it is dead easy and dead cheap to do this, and it is very, very pervasive. And as I said before, it is part of the whole the whole marketing toolbox now. It's not a separate toolbox, it is part of the existing toolbox. And so this comes down to all sorts of things which are going on in all sorts of places. There will be QR codes on posters in bus stops. There will be search for the AA in radio adverts. All of these will have call to action which go online, and so on and so forth. So it's just part of the process. It is not a separate process entirely. And one of the things we need to look at when we're looking at this kind of pervasiveness is to look at the overall environment where we are marketing. And so we need to identify what problems our businesses solve, and that tells us who we are solving it for. And we also need to look at what's going on in the wider world around, about, and so forth. So, we have economic situation. 2020, when we all were shut away, we were ordering online, we weren't going into pubs. I'm sure, Chelsea, you guys had a yeah. How did you cope?
It was quite difficult. A lot of our pubs turned to takeaways in collection, so they adapted that way. We were just building Brew Point, which is our new brewery at the time, so that was obviously postponed in terms of opening. And then we joined the bandwagon when we were allowed outside and brought a load of marquees and invested in our gardens. But yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, Yeah, the yurts were out all over Cambridge. I know that there was lots of
Yeah.
places with the huge great yurts and the tents and everything else. And yeah, the outdoor seating was for everybody, not just the smokers.
Yeah.
And you know, there's also a bigger change in terms of, you know, where we drink, where we go indoors or outdoors. I mean, there was a big time when it was you know, relatively few families went out to drink into pubs, and you went out with mates. You didn't go out as a husband and wife kind of thing to pubs. I think since that's changed back again. People are considering it to be a bit more of a treat. Oh, let's pop out. You know, let's not just sit indoors and drink a can. Let's actually go out somewhere and stuff like this. So it becomes a slightly different social event and stuff like this. So
I
I mean, they're not.
As well, like it's changed massively. It's changed the way people come out, and I think we find now people are only really coming out for experiences, so we're kind of having to adapt again into creating reasons for people to come to the pub, because they don't necessarily just want to come for a pint now. It's what else can they get, because they're going out less often but they're potentially spending more money. So it's kind of, how can you encourage people to come to you, you know, over
Yeah,
what
so
other people
even
do.
in like
Absolutely. I
my
mean,
local area, there's been like so many pubs that are now doing like quiz nights and like
Yeah.
karaoke nights. And I think because of, like you just said, there's this, because there is this kind of cost of living crisis, people are less inclined to go and spend £5, £6 for a pint. But then if there's a quiz involved and they might win £25 or they might win a £20 beer tab, they're more inclined to go.
Yeah, definitely.
oh, totally. And at the other end, you've got you know, hotels putting jazz nights on and stuff like this, in order to be getting to hotel bars and stuff like that. And that's really much definitely catering for kind of the slightly older marketplace, you know, people like myself who may not necessarily want to go into a kind of crowded pub, but you know, want to go out for a drink with a couple of mates and stuff like this. You know, another married couple or whatever, and just having a bit of a nice time and stuff like that. So there's different ways of people doing it. And things like this are really important to understand in all of our industries and all of our businesses, you know, because it's understanding where we fit in this landscape. And I look at it in terms of things like Pesta and Pesto and stuff like this. If you were putting together an expedition to, like the Mayflower expedition to America and stuff like this, okay, you've got you know, you've got to make sure your ship is right and everything else, and that's your kind of, okay, is the ship right? Have I got enough food on it and all that kind of stuff? Have I got the right crew and everything else? But you need to also to look at the wider environment. You need to say, okay, is it the right season to go? Is it, what's the weather conditions going to be likely to be like? And I'm going over to the Atlantic. When I get to wherever I'm going, am I going to be able to plant my seeds straight away, or am I going to have a massive, you know, hard winter before I can actually feed myself? So I'm going to have to do all this stuff. And Pesta is very much this kind of long range environmental scanning of what's going on in the world. So we understand where our organization fits and where the rocks and the dragons and stuff are going to be coming from. And so it's a really important thing to consider when you're doing any kind of marketing, not just digital, any kind of marketing, is to look around and go, okay, what's going on in this world? What's happening around us, and how are we going to cope? You know, with things like, you know, GDPR and stuff like this. Has you ever heard about the cookie ban on browsers? Yes, no. As part of the whole GDPR thing, our privacy is you know, very important, and there are discussions planned ahead whereby the use of cookies, where you go to a website and it goes, "Hello, Carl, lovely to see you again," or cookies which said, "Hey, Carl, you just put something in your basket and then wandered off," and you get an email to say, "Don't forget that thing you put in the basket," kind of stuff. Those kind of cookies may well be banned. So these persistent cookies which last longer than your session. on the website may well no longer be allowed. And that's going to have huge impacts on a lot of what we do in marketing, because it will stop things like remarketing and retargeting. It will stop the before you leave, don't forget to, or hey, you've just left a bunch of stuff in your basket, come back, or whatever. And you know, people who bought this also bought that kind of things as well. All of those kind of things may be actually prevented through this process, because a lot of the privacy stuff which has been written, the privacy legislation which has been written, was written by people who don't understand technology. And so when they did it, they kind of didn't quite do enough. And now they're kind of swinging the other way and trying to do a little bit too much, maybe, arguably. And so there's all sorts of things going on in those kind of areas that we need to be aware of. And it's important for us all to notice these things. Technological. Liv, spare, do you do spares?
What do you mean by spares?
Spare parts.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, we have an
okay.
online web shop as part of our customer portal.
Okay, cool. Some interesting tech which goes on, which Boeing used, which was augmented reality. You know, augmented reality, everyone heard about augmented reality back in 2018, 2019 with Pokemon Go. There's little things popping up. Boeing are doing it in a slightly different way, in that they're using augmented reality and glasses with cameras on them. So their engineers can be inside the belly of a 747, and they can be looking at a bunch of parts with the serial numbers on the parts.
Yeah, I've tried this. When I went out to our headquarters and Volvo's headquarters in Sweden, they're actually working on a similar thing, and I've had a go at looking around a big vehicle and choosing parts, selecting parts through a screen, exactly the same as this sort of thing.
Cool. So that's amazing kinds of technology in that kind of stuff, because I mean, for Boeing, they can say, oh, those parts have had a recall, or because you've got that part, you have to have this part, or whatever. And you know, companies like Tesla, because of the way that Tesla works, every single car can theoretically be different, usually broken in a different way, but they can be different. Anyone who knows anything about Cybertruck will understand that joke. But anyway, and so they can identify, oh yeah, this one was made at this particular date, this particular time, and therefore you have to have this particular thing in there instead of that particular thing, and stuff like this. But it can also be used in some other really interesting areas. For example, it could be used in healthcare. You could have a code on a bottle of pills, and the health visitor could come in and take a look at the bottle of pills and go, oh, this person needs to have them at these particular times. And it would also be able to identify whether they've got contraindications of, you can't have that pill at the same time as that pill, you have to have 2 hours difference between those two pills, or whatever. And these things could be really kind of interesting, which are going on in this area. And these kind of technologies, as Liv said, are being used around the world, and can change the way that we work. Other things that can be done in this area. Obviously, all of our phones know exactly where we are all the time. That's how Google Maps and Apple Maps works. They know literally where all of our phones are all of the time. And they use the phones of other people on the road to identify when the road's slowing down and stuff like that. That's how they know live traffic. They literally just watch phones slowing down and go, oh, all those phones in those cars are slowing down. There must be a problem. That's what they're doing. But because they know where we are, you could get text messages on your phone or on your watch. Buy one, get one free in Costa. And because it's a text message, you'll look at it, because we do. We all look at text messages immediately. One of the things about them, they are almost 100% openable. And so you look at your text message, oh, buy one, get one free in Costa. And you look up and you're literally walking past a Costa. how did they know that? Because they knew exactly where the costas were, and they knew exactly where you were. And so they sent that message to you at exactly the moment where you're most likely to respond to it in real time. And they can now do this. They can actually track where you are, what you're doing, and send you those offers right at the moment where you're most likely to use them. And these technologies are kind of really interesting, but of course that one has got all sorts of privacy implications, because if they know where we are, then other people know where we are, and they can hack into what these systems are and find out where everybody is, and so on. And they had this big problem with the Apple tags. Remember the issue with the Apple tags, that you were used in order to avoid losing your handbag or your wallet or whatever. And of course, usually jealous husbands were stalking their wives by inserting Apple tags into places where the partner didn't know where they were and so forth, and they were basically just digitally stalking them. And it's kind of scary, all of this stuff that's going on. But it's really interesting to see where these things are going, and I think it's a really important thing that we have to do to look at what's happening in the world around us. Because competition, it's almost as if I know what these slides are going to say before I say that. Competition is incredibly accelerated now, since the digital environment has taken over. And I've experienced this for literally decades now. I used to work for an organization called UUNet, which turned into WorldCom. You're all too young to remember WorldCom, but WorldCom took a look at the Enron largest ever corporate fraud and bankruptcy and went, hold my beer. Not one of Chelsea's beers, because this is too long ago. And they had a $45 billion fraud. There are people still in jail because of it. But that's not the point of this thing. When we were working in the internet industry, we were developing internet services, we were developing new products, new services, we were changing the way things were working at a phenomenal rate. And it was estimated that our business was transforming itself, its product portfolio, its customer base, 8 times faster than a traditional offline business. So in a period of a year, we would be doing essentially all the things that would take 8 years for an offline business to do. That, as you can imagine, was a bit of a stressful place to work. Especially as when the fraud got announced, I actually had to go, was on the way to a conference in Birmingham, and at 6:30 a.m. I was having a video conference call with the States about this bankruptcy, in a lay-by on the A14, and I got up in front of 800 people in Birmingham in a conference facility and said, "Good morning, my name's Carl Meyer, I'm here from WorldCom, has anyone got any questions?" On the day that a $45 billion fraud was announced from my company. So yeah, I earned my money that day. Like I say, I have more stories for anything. Competition is fast. Competition is moving faster. I mean, people, Airbnb, Uber, all these organizations are developing and accelerating their businesses at rates that were just not considered feasible before. Brewdog considered, they rose to fame massively fast for a very small organization, and most of that was through digital transformation, digital mechanisms, and so forth. And this is obviously, as everyone knows, Porter's 5 forces. And there's some really interesting techniques which have been going on in this area. One particular thing is the concept of disintermediation. And Chelsea, you're probably understanding disintermediation from your point perspective, because you're selling direct. You have an online store. Okay, so whereas normally you'd go to off licenses and sell your products into off licenses, and then those off licenses would sell it, you can now sell it direct. And there are companies like Beer 52, I think it's called. Do you heard of Beer 52? Just
It
check
rings a
that
bell,
one.
oh yeah.
Let me just check.
Is that like
see
a
if I can-
subscription
Yeah.
thing?
I'm just going to check. It's beer52.com. Yeah, it's a beer club and a wine club. Other companies like Naked Wines and so on are very similar in that respect. And they basically disintermediate. They say, you know, rather than going through off licenses, we will sell direct. And we will sell it on subscription. So we'll say, okay, you want a case every month? Fine. We'll send you a case every month. Not a problem. Companies like Mindful Chef, Gusto, and all those people, very, very similar kind of environments. Lots and lots of people went through Mindful Chef and Gusto and all those kind of people during lockdown because they were at home, they couldn't eat out. So they thought, oh, I'll just bring in a 20 quid box for a couple of meals for 2 people and give it a go and stuff like that. So these organizations, Beer 52 just sent me a woohoo, you've got £10 off, enter your email to claim. Pop up. It's just literally turned up on my screen. It's weird. And what they're doing is they're cutting out the middleman. Other companies which also do similar things. Company called Cornerstone. Anyone here got a partner who shaves regularly? Yeah. One of the things that men find, because we are all, without exception, disorganized and lazy. That's just a fact. That's a fact. Men are all disorganized and we are lazy. And so we will get our razor blades and we will shave with the one razor blade forever until it is about as sharp as a butter knife. And then only then we will possibly get round to thinking about maybe buying some more razor blades because we're disorganized and lazy. Cornerstone wanted to break into the market selling razor blades and razors and stuff like this. And so what they said was, okay, we will factor in the disorganizedness and laziness of men, and we will put them on a subscription service. So it asks you how many times do you shave a week, and you say I shave 4 times a week, and it says, okay, every month you'll need X number of razor blades. We'll send them to you. We'll take away the literal pain of using a blunt razor in exchange for your cash, which means that they can send them directly to you. They don't have to sell them to Boots, who then sell them on and so on and so forth. They can just cut out that middleman very, very easily, very, very quickly. Who's ever watched The Apprentice? Yeah. I stopped watching because they just started to annoy me. My blood pressure couldn't cope with how annoying and how stupid they were. But one of the last series I did watch, there was a woman, very intelligent woman, and she had a business idea, which was actually a very good business idea, which was tights. And she was Afro-Caribbean, and so she said, you know, people don't sell tights which suit Afro-Caribbean complexions, you know. And so what she was going to do was she was going to create lots and lots and lots of different shades of tights which were more suited for different skin types and skin tones. And brilliant idea, you know, that works really well. The difficulty was that the plan that she had to distribute these was to persuade people like Boots and Superdrug and department stores and stuff like this to stock these. Now, again, I'm sorry, I keep going back to you, Chelsea, but you've actually got a good examples of a lot of these things. all the different product numbers, all the different product types. You can imagine if you've got like 10 shades, 5 different denier thicknesses, and 3 different sizes, that is a vast number of individual product lines. Okay. To persuade Boots to take on 120 different product lines in packs of 20 each, how many stores are going to take that? Because that's a vast amount of stock holding going on in a business. And this was must be about 10 years ago. And I was screaming at the TV, no, do it on subscription. Do an online subscription service. So you send out sample packs with different shades and different deniers and everything else to your people, to your customers. They then pick the ones they like. And then they go, yeah, I want 5 pairs a month. And, you know, have a special treat patterned pair or something like that you chuck in for Christmas or whatever, and things like this. And then every month, you know, you're going to get 5 pairs brand new, which you can put a couple in your desk drawer at work and put a couple in your bedroom, and you know you're not going to run out. You know you're never going to need a pair, and they're going to be falling apart, or they're going to have holes or whatever. I'm married with a daughter. I know this stuff. And that to me seems like a brilliant way of disintermediating, to removing that middleman and to improving your stocking kind of situations entirely, and to personalizing your product through this digital process. So it's really kind of interesting to look at how digital can change the way that we see Porter working, because you can get these new entrants coming in, the cornerstones of this world, changing the way that the business is run, the Ubers, the Airbnbs of this world. You can get suppliers disintermediating, bypassing their distribution channels completely and going directly to the customers because they can market to them directly, they can address them directly, and they can actually fulfill directly. And one of the areas of marketing which has massively changed is channel marketing. We all know about channel marketing, how channel marketing works. So you have a business which sells to another business, which then sells to an end user, be that business or consumer. Okay, so you know, the big problem with channel marketing is that you, as the manufacturer of the products, don't have a direct relationship with the end users. So you have to work out when you're doing your marketing, do I just persuade my distributors to take my product? In Chelsea's case, do I persuade independent pubs to take my product? But if I do that, how do I persuade the consumers to ask for the product, to request the product? Because if they don't know the value proposition of my product, they ain't ever going to ask for it. And so the pub is going to go, well, why the bloody hell am I stocking this stuff? No one asks for it. It's taking up room. It's taking up a tap. It's taking up fridge space. I don't have enough room for a product no one asks for. So you have to do the marketing, the demand generation marketing to get to them. And, you know, we have to look at how that works. And in the digital world, that works a lot better because we can use social media to create a buzz. We can use influencers to create a buzz about our products and our services. We can do these things to generate that demand so that when somebody sees it on a tap somewhere, they go, oh, great, I'll try that. I heard about that. I'll give it a go. They like it. They buy more of it. They recommend it to their friends and so on. And of course, the fantastic thing about this kind of digital marketing is you can say, great, okay, I'm going to focus on pubs in Newmarket. I don't have any pubs in Newmarket. I'm going to focus on pubs in Newmarket. And what I will do is I will do my demand marketing to men of a certain age in the Newmarket area and absolutely target your marketing there. So you spend less money, but you're going to the kind of people who go to pubs and really rifle shot your marketing spend to those people. So you're not marketing to people in Ipswich, you're not marketing people in Norwich or whatever. You know, if you were trying to sell on an advertising on Anglia TV, you'd be spending vast amounts of money on Anglia TV advertising, and 95% of the people watching those TV adverts couldn't use it because they're nowhere near a pub. But if you say, right, okay, I've got 2 pubs in Newmarket, I'm going to just market it to Newmarket, and you can do it. And that is phenomenal opportunities that digital provides us, is to be able to do this.
So one thing that we use, I don't know if it's relevant, but we use a lot of CGA data when we're opening new pubs, just to figure out what sort of brand they're going to sit in. And then obviously we use that to then decide what, based on the demographics, what style of pub we think would work best in that area. And then obviously that links back into how we market to them.
Absolutely. And the massively brilliant thing about digital is because we can really closely target our geographical marketing. You know, I get adverts on this thing, which say, are you a 50 to 60-year-old man in Cambridge? We're looking for subjects to do our new fitness regime. Okay. Now, strangely enough, I'm the only person in this house who gets those. I can't think why I'm the only person in this house who gets those adverts, but they can target down to that level. And when I turned 55, they knew instantly I turned 55 because I was getting all sorts of pension adverts coming through. These things are findable very, very quickly, and you can do it on demographics, you can do it on geography, you can do it on a whole variety of topics, and this really, really helps us with our marketing. And of course, for a lot of switching products and services is really important. And you know, Liv, if you're looking at your products, presumably your competitors are Komatsu, JCB.
Yeah, Caterpillar, that sort of
Caterpillar.
people.
Yeah,
But we also are competing with like big brands that have fleets. So might buy from multiple OEMs, but run their own machinery fleet. So would hire to our customer base. So instead of our customers buying and investing with us, they would rent a product to fill that gap, especially where the market is particularly fluctuating at the moment. So it's like, how do we get people to take a long-term investment in a product, solution and services, as opposed to short-term hire product?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a very small number of brands that they can switch from, but because of the issues of experience, training of their maintenance teams and so forth, brand switching is incredibly difficult because they don't want to have to send everybody on new training courses. They don't want to get new diagnostic equipment. They don't want to do all of those kind of bits and pieces. And so switching can be incredibly difficult. And how do you break down that fear, uncertainty, and doubt in terms of switching? And and what you can do now with a lot of digital stuff is you can look at customer advocacy. Customer advocacy is a huge area of marketing. We'll talk about customer advocacy in greater detail later. This is just the generic starting points. Basically, in the business-to-business world, the business execs, the senior execs in the company who are going to make the multi-million-pound decisions are going to look at a bunch of adverts created by Liv, no matter how good they are, and go, well, she would say that, wouldn't she? She's going to say her stuff's better. She's paid to say their stuff's better. She's going to say, I don't trust what she says. But if they get to hear somebody from Tarmac or Balfour Beatty or whoever it happens to be saying, yeah, we're moving our product, our portfolio or our fleet over to X because we found that the cost of ownership, the downtime issues, those kind of things which really, really kill construction products. I mean, basically, if they're spending $500,000 on a thing, they don't want it down for a second, let alone a day. So having a kind of a video case study, video interview with a guy from Balfour Beatty or whatever going, we pick these ones because we know that the stuff's there and we can rely on it. And if there is a broken part, we know we can get it within 4 hours and all that kind of blah. They're going to believe that guy because that guy is one of them. He's one of their peers, and he can be, if he's an advocate for you, that generates so much more value than Liv with all her experience and all her knowledge trying to do it for them.
No, it's such a massive tool that we do use heavily for a lot of stuff. We always are looking for a spokesperson that's outside of the company that can back up whatever we're trying to sell, whether it be a digital solution or a physical product. It's a massive driving force.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and of course, FUD is the terminology: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. In the business to business world, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is the biggest blockage to brand switching in existence. And FUD was actually invented by IBM. IBM salespeople were the masters of FUD, in that it was basically said back in the 90s that no one ever got sacked by buying Big Blue. Big Blue being IBM. IBM's logo being big and blue. Because, if you're in the market for PC computers or mainframes or whatever else IBM sold, if you selected IBM, then no one was going to blame you if it broke, because hell, it's IBM. If you bought the Hitachi version, because Hitachi did actually mainframe computers, and it broke, then you'd be blamed, because why the hell didn't you pick IBM? If you'd picked IBM, we wouldn't have been having these problems. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt was a massive, massive marketing tool to prevent brand switching and to maintain brand inertia. And breaking down churn is something which is important. So if you're either trying to protect what you're doing, you want to emphasize your fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If you're trying to break into markets, you need to break down fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So depending on the way your business is running, depending on what you're trying to do in your business, FUD can either be a very important tool or a major blockage to what you're trying to do. So understanding it as a concept is really important for you. And this comes back to this business strategy I said at the beginning. You understanding your business's strategy. Are we looking to grow? Are we looking to take over market share from people? Are we looking to maintain our existing market share, being in the face of new competitors coming into our market? Are we looking to increase the lifetime value of existing customers or capture new customers? These things, these business level strategies, massively color the kind of things you do in marketing. Because unless you understand what business wants, you could be putting a market strategy together and they go, well, there aren't enough customers out there to go and get new ones. We've got our bunch and we're happy with our bunch, and providing we increase the values in these ones, then that's fine. That we can get our 10% year-on-year growth simply by just selling more to the existing customers. So these business strategies are important to you, and understanding them is really, really cool for what you're trying to do. FUD also has this concept. I don't know why it's gone up to one. The perfect market. The perfect market doesn't exist. In a perfect market, everybody knows all the information about everything. So not the price of everything, the profit margins that your suppliers are making, what all of the competitors are doing, and so on and so forth. And the prices work to a perfect level. It doesn't happen. But the internet has created a closer to perfect market than we used to have. Take, for example, the car insurance and the dodgy car insurance brokers that my sister worked for. Because you as an individual, an 18-year-old with your first car, mini club in estate for anyone who wants to know, you had no idea about all the different insurance companies. You had no idea what all of the terminology was. You had no idea how to put your information down in the best way to get the lowest price, and so all these things. You just didn't have a clue. Someone told you this is going to cost you 500 quid. You paid your 500 quid. You had no alternative because you couldn't find the information anywhere else. And businesses had control of the information. They knew all of the information, and they gave you only the bits of the information that were necessary for you to buy. They kept private so much stuff. Organizations like Compare the Market were able to start to break that down in exchange for 45%. But it also worked in terms of product selection in other areas. If you were buying a car in the pre-internet days, and honestly, there were pre-internet days. I know that none of you have ever known of pre-internet days, but there were. They did exist, honest. You didn't actually have a great deal of choice in finding out what was going on. There were 2 weekly magazines about cars, which, unless you were really, really, really a petrol head, you didn't buy, because, you know, who the hell spends money looking at pictures of cars? It's something you do. All you could do was go to your local dealers. So you were in a town and it had 5 dealerships. All you could do was go into the dealers and look at the cars and get the brochures from the dealers. And that was pretty much it. You couldn't find out information about which cars were the most reliable, which cars had the best fuel economy. You couldn't find out, oh, I happen to know that Ford have actually got a field full of Ford Focuses out near Leicester, and they are absolutely desperate to get rid of them. You didn't have that information. You didn't have that knowledge. You didn't have the knowledge that BMW suspension breaks if you accelerate too hard, because you couldn't find that information. You didn't have that. And of course, the dealership's not going to tell you that. And the dealership's not going to tell you that the car you want is, they've got thousands of them, and so therefore you can haggle for the price. They're going to go, well, I'll see if I can do that for you. It might take a bit of time. And they basically lie. I mean, they're car dealerships. They lie. You had no information. You had no power. Now you have information. You have power. You can go into a dealership and go, I want that car, and I'm willing to pay that price. And they go, yeah, well, we haven't got any in that color. And in any case, it's going to be £3 more than that. And you can go, actually, there's one in the color I want at the price that I want in Stockport, and it's one of your dealers. Bring it down here and I'll buy it. You can do that now because you can find that information. And I bought a car a couple of years ago, actually in 2020, during lockdown. I actually bought a car during lockdown. I don't know physically how I did it, but I managed to do it. And I was talking to the guy in the dealership about cars. And I was sort of saying, you know, have the fact that you haven't been able to have dealerships and test drives and everything else caused problems? Because I'm a marketing person and I talk about this stuff. And he said, it hasn't really made much difference, because 10 years ago, they used to have around about 14 visits to a dealership for every sale. So people would go to 14, sort of 7 or 8 different dealerships, go in there once, have a test drive, come back, think about it, and so on. So there'd be 14 visits per sale. Now, he said, the average is 1.79 visits per sale. Basically, people are doing all of their research, all of their marketing research in advance. And they're going around, they know what the prices are, they know what the models are, they know the spec they want. Pretty much all they're going in is to look at it and decide whether they want it in that color, or what seat colors they want inside it. And then they're placing the order and doing it. And because the information power dynamic has shifted dramatically to the customer. So this is a big issue for us, because as marketers, we're no longer in control of the information flow. And we're competing against other people doing the same thing. So, Trustpilot, all the review sites for any product or any service are out there, and people will be able to get this information. So we have huge issues in that respect. Not if we're great, if we're great products and so forth, then we're fine. But if we've got anything slightly dodgy going, then it's a little bit trickier. I mean, restaurants, pubs, the reviews are a perpetual nightmare. I know there's lots of. Do you still get the kind of the review blackmail kind of thing going on? Is that still a thing, or has that really died down a lot now?
Do you mean in terms of sort of I'm going to leave you a bad review if you don't respond?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, give us 20% off. Or
yeah, sadly we still get that.
gosh, I didn't think that still happened, but
yeah,
because people think they control it now. The thing is, lots and lots of people have identified. I mean, when Twitter still existed as a powerful place, you didn't go through the customer support desks. You put your message up on Twitter, and it was always the case that if one person has if a person has a great experience, they'll tell 1 or 2 people. If they had a bad experience, they'll tell 100. And this is the case for everything that goes on. If there's a new dumper truck, and it does its dumper trucking 24/7, 365 days a year without breaking down, that's what I bought it for. You're not going to get a bouquet of flowers because it worked. I paid the money to expect it to work. If it breaks down, then they start complaining. And it's the same thing with things, at a more basic level, eBay reviews and Amazon reviews. If it turns up and it does what you said, who reviews it? Who has time? Who has the energy to review stuff? You don't. If it breaks, then you're far more likely to review. And this is big issue for a lot of products, particularly in the consumer marketplace. That one unhappy customer can really trash your entire reputation, because they will send that information out, and that will be found because Google will find it and will put it up, and all these kind of things. So big problems, big issues there. And disruption. Netflix have stopped physically shipping out DVDs now, and they decided that the small number of people who were still using it just wasn't worth the candle. So, anyone know what not worth the candle means? Where it comes from? The origin of not worth the candle? No? Anyone heard of it before? That am I just using it there?
I presume, isn't it like in the olden times, like you wouldn't waste a candle to light a room if it wasn't worthwhile, that kind of thing?
Similar. What happened is that in banks, if a bank would have to balance its cash every day, make sure the money going in and the money coming out were tallied correctly. And what would happen is that if the bank was a few pounds out, all the staff would have to be held back until they found it. Okay, and of course this was back in when things were lit by candles, and they realized that actual fact they were spending more money on overtime and candles than they were actually in saving the potential fraud of a couple of quid. Back when I used to work for a bank, if a branch was within 10,000 of being accurate, then that was considered okay on a daily basis. The bank branch had about within 10,000 of what it should have in its cash drawers. That was fine.
So when I used to work in retail, and we had if it was more than £1.50 discrepancy on the till, everyone was held back and you were not paid overtime. It was essentially kind of empty your pocket. So the fact that there's I imagine an international bank that's like, oh, you could get away with taking 9,500 and we'll be okay with it. That's just insane.
Well, it would look over the day, because one day it'd be what, 10,000 up, one day it'd be 10,000 down, and it would all average out over time. And with numbers they can work it out. Another interesting thing about banks is that I mean, none of you probably, my daughter hasn't got a checkbook. She's never had a checkbook. Literally, she wouldn't know how to write a check, I don't think. Back in the old days of checks, if a check was for less than £3,000, they didn't check the signature. The signatures were never checked on any checks below £3,000. So trying to make sure your signature was right, pointless. You could have a spider writing on it. Sorry, back. So yeah, basically, Netflix, which could have been bought by Blockbuster for a couple of tens of millions, and Blockbuster famously decided they didn't really want it. Thank you very much. They basically said, yeah, we're not going to send out DVDs anymore. It's not worth it. The small number of people, even though it was marginally, it's just not worth it. We can't be asked to do it anymore. The overall cost of money to run it was just too much for them. And I mean, many people have been talking about the death of the high street for a very long time. And to an extent, our high streets are changing dramatically. We are moving away from endless rows of shoe shops and stuff like this into much more kind of experiential places, many more coffee shops, many more places, which are essentially showrooms. I mean, if you look at Apple, it's essentially just a showroom. They don't really necessarily want to sell you great stuff. They'll show off the stuff, and if you want to buy it online, then that's cool. I don't care. That's absolutely fine for them. But one of the great things about this is bookshops. We might think, well, with Amazon, how the hell do bookshops survive? And this actually comes down to a really interesting technique which is going on. If you are looking for the latest Richard Osman, you can go on to Amazon and just type in Richard Osman or Thursday Motor Club, and it will pull up all the different formats, all the different titles, all the, you know, do you want an ebook, do you want a hardback, do you want it signed, unsigned, whatever, all the things you can do. Brilliant. Great, I can get that, and it'll be here tomorrow. Fantastic. But if you're going on holiday and you want a couple of books to read by the pool, or you want to buy something for your dad, and your dad's into kind of murder mysteries, but you're not really sure what kind of thing you want to buy for him and stuff like this, it's not really your thing, so you're not an expert, Amazon is a really, really bad place to buy that stuff. Random browsing just doesn't work on Amazon. But it works brilliantly in a physical bookshop. They have the tables at the front with the books, the particular picks from the staff, all of this stuff. And for that experiential purchase, bookshops work, whereas Amazon doesn't. Because Amazon is just, there's just too much stuff. It's just too much choice. There's a fantastic sketch about that, which I will dig out and I'll send you the link to it. It's a fantastic sketch about too much. So do people experience things? Do people go into Waterstones and places like that and have a rummage around and have a look around? No, Gabby, you don't?
Yeah.
No, I just look on Amazon and like just read the reviews on there if I buy a book.
Right, but how do you know? How do you ever find different books?
I don't really know. I just never go into like a shop these days really to like buy things. Like I
Okay,
just do
that's
everything online.
fair point. Fair point. I would happily spend hours in the bookshop just rummaging around, and you know, things like the Waterson's thing with 3 for 2 and stuff like this, buy one get one half price. Yeah, it's great. I can walk away with armfuls of books very, very happily.
I think it's like an experience thing as well, and I think that's what like Waterstones have done so well, is that you can just go onto Amazon and you can buy like three books that are kind of top 3 trending in the UK. But I think going into Waterstones, I think reading, there's a certain type of demographic of readers that like to go in and kind of sit in the cafes and experience and kind of try before they buy. And yeah, I'm very much a print book over and I much prefer going into a kind of a bookshop still. But then it's the ease of being able to just go online and I'd say order someone's birthday present that you've forgotten to order the night before, then have it arrive the next day, and then not look like a bad friend because you forgot someone's birthday.
Yeah, I mean there is that side of things, and if you know what you want, then Amazon is the best place. Amazon is probably the third biggest search engine in the world, because that's what it is. It's essentially a search engine. You put in Harlan Coben and it'll give you all the different Harlan Coben books and all the different formats, and that's great. But if you're looking for something a little bit out there, a little bit unusual, something a little bit, your dad, you probably goes, oh yeah, I'll just buy the next Harlan Coben. Great, he's got all the rest of them. It'll be fine. He knows that one. But if you're looking for a friend and you want to find something a bit different, a bit out there, a little bit kind of left field, then Amazon is not a good place to find left field. It really isn't. So yeah, there's all sorts of different things. So, and this comes down to experiential versus functional. You can buy cat litter and cat food and stuff like that. Functional stuff, great, brilliant. I don't need to look. Looking around for something special for a dinner party, even the best online shopping apps don't give you that kind of experience and that kind of feel and that kind of imagination. And we find it because we buy most of our food online, delivered, but we still go to a supermarket every so often just to see what new stuff is around, what to get some fresh inspirations, because if you're doing it a weekly shop and the same things every time, then you don't get those fresh inspirations, because online shopping is too functional for those inspirational bits. So really, really important sets of trends and stuff like this. And this, just as a summary, because this is the last bit I want to talk about today. We talked about personalization, this marketing to an audience of one, this targeting, geographical targeting, demographic targeting, functional targeting. If you're using LinkedIn, Liv, or Catherine, to target people, you can say, I want to market to people who have got this particular role in this particular industry, and really make sure you get your adverts just to those 2,000 people, without actually getting the other 98,000 people, and paying for 98,000 people who are never going to buy your stuff. So those are the kind of things we can actually do. The other great thing that we can do in here is learn from this. Whereas before, if you're doing TV adverts or radio adverts or whatever, the only things you could do is, like 6 months later, essentially do a post-mortem and rummage through the entrails and work out, did that huge TV campaign actually generate any extra sales, and not be able to track those sales to particular things and stuff like this. We can now learn much more quickly that the campaign that we did last week has generated this many leads, because we can track the two together, and we can then learn from our mistakes, learn from our successes. That's what we do. Marketing is 50% mistakes. Good marketers don't repeat the mistakes. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. It's just don't do them twice. It's the key thing. And digital allows us to avoid those mistakes. So, all these new technologies and stuff like this, we'll talk about later in the sessions and stuff like this. But I think that is a good point for us to kind of stop today, because I think we've probably been exhausted with what's going on. Has that helped kind of position what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 months? Yeah, good. There's a lot of serious looks in there. Have I given you lots of food for thought? Yeah. It's scary, but it's a fun scary. It's a fun roller coaster scary, rather than a, oh my God, I'm going to die scary. So don't worry about it. It's cool. Great. In which case, I will see you 6:30 next week. Thank you very much. You know where I am. You know my email address is. If you want to have a chat about anything, if you want me to focus on particular things, you have questions about what we said, just drop me a line. Very happy to help whenever. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
very much.
See you next week.
See you.
Bye.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye.